going to move across to BBC iPlayer now for a new 2-part documentary from Chris Packham. The first part is called Inside Our ADHD Minds. It arrived on Monday the 12th of May, and here is a clip.
Neurodivergent people are more likely to experience depression, anxiety, even suicidal thoughts. So I want to do everything I can to tackle this hidden crisis. And I'm starting with ADHD.
So you may remember that Chris Packham, who was diagnosed as an adult, I think he was in his 40s, as being autistic, he did a very good documentary called Inside Our ADHD Minds, where he gave some autistic people the opportunity to make a film that expressed how they experienced the world because of their neurodivergence, and then show it to their loved ones, and then we also as viewers gain a great understanding. And one of them was Ken Bruce's son, who the DJ, who's non-verbal. So it was very, very moving, very informative, and now he's back with 2 more documentaries. The first one looks at ADHD, and the second looks at dyslexia. And in fact, his stepdaughter, Megan, is also a broadcaster. She's dyslexic, so she features in that. This first one, so there's a young lad he's actually a tour guide in London, and he describes his ADHD. He creates this character called Tombola Man, because he says it's like someone just throwing balls at him all the time that are like these unwanted thoughts, and it's very effective actually. And then there's also a woman who wasn't like Chris, was well into her life when she got diagnosed, but looking back she sort of thinks, I was always chopping and changing jobs, careers, and I was always like, very kind of extrovert and loud, and thinking about how it had affected her relationship with her wife, and when they do the big reveal and they show the films to the family and friends, it's just incredibly moving. And I think Packham is really good at presenting this kind of show, because really he's just giving them the opportunity to tell their stories. He's not pontificating about the subject. And I would say go back and watch his original program about autism, because it's a really excellent piece of TV. What did you think, Hannah?
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I think we all, we hear these, for want of a better term, labels all the time, don't we? And don't fully necessarily understand them unless you know somebody closely who has experienced, living with ADHD, for example, or autism or whatever it might be. So, and it's the fact that actually, and I think a lot of education systems now are identifying things significantly sooner. Our awareness is much greater, our understanding. But this sort of shines a different light on it, doesn't it? Because actually, as you say, with Jo, who's a council employee from Hertfordshire, she's 51, and she only received the diagnosis 2 years ago. And I think that her symptoms were amplified by the menopause. And we know that women are really, really good at hiding these symptoms for a really long time. And so actually, to shine a spotlight on that will help, I think, so many people, because they might identify with it and say, do you know what? That's me. I've always heard that. I've always found this. I've found this difficult. I'm difficult in a social situation, for example, or loud situations, or whatever it might be, whatever your trigger is. And there's absolutely help there. There's also alternative help there. I think a lot of people think, just go down the medical route. I don't want to start taking, something and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And there's lots of options, and we're still learning. So I think that this is a really good thing to watch, and will help us all as societally, actually, to make a shift and a change. And allowances in some scenarios when it really just comes down to our ignorance and lack of understanding. So yeah, really good, and I would agree, go back and watch, because it's very in depth, isn't it? And it's quite it's quite emotional, I think, at times, to be honest with you.